What is a best technology for web, AR and VR? How to make a right choice and build a robust and scalable application. Hey guys, in this video we're gonna talk about web technologies with a specific focus on AR and VR capabilities. I already have a video on my channel when I talk about 3D web engines and technologies, and we already have a tier list, but this one is a bit different. We will talk specifically about AR and VR and discuss like which is better for what case. Let's jump in right there and start doing rates. I will also provide a lot of feedback from our experience, share my expertise, and this tier list will be a little bit special, and you see why in a bit. Instead of having a tier list with A, B, C, something like that, we will not do that. Instead, we will sort them by purpose. And that makes a lot of sense because most of the technologies that you might heard of and you might know, most of them use the same basis. Like, for example, there is ARCore for AR preview that is used like by half of the engines in this list. There is also WebXR that is supported by most of the engines like Three.js, Babylon.js, etc. And there is some unique technology based like on WebXR plus WebGL, or maybe like some custom development like H12, for example. Even Unity have like WebGL version that supports AR, etc. So there is not much of technology difference between some of the engines, but there are difference on the level of how easy you approach the development. It is really important to know what case or what problem or what is your project about that you're trying to apply this technology, and that is a really number one question when you choose any of the technology, because some of them may do some job fast, but you will not, or like the solution is open source, but you're not gonna achieve the results you want. And we talk in examples, and I will show you some of them. Let's start for the first one, Three.js. So everyone knows Three.js, right? Most popular 3D library, and Three.js basically have AR and VR support, but that's not what is this engine about. It supports WebXR. Again, WebXR is some sort of technology that allows VR, AR right from the browser. So Three.js actually utilizes it. I will put it inside support because when it comes to like tracking, like space tracking, face tracking, like I don't know, location tracking, or maybe like some advanced VR experience, that's not about it, because you will have to use additional libraries, etc, etc, etc. But Three.js is near to any other technology, so it's not an engine, it's just, I mean, it's a library basically that just use WebXR, and yeah, it have access to AR and VR, but within the WebXR capabilities. A little bit about WebXR. It has limited support right now per devices. Android devices have like great support of WebXR, but with iPhones still a lot of struggles. Some browsers support it as experimental technology. We hope any soon that Safari start to support it as a standard. Device to device WebXR is not really, we're talking about like AR and VR experience through WebXR. There is also ARCore, we will talk just right after, that also have AR that can be connected to Three.js application, but again, that's a mix. Three.js by itself have access like to WebXR from the library itself. So ARCore is basically a Google API that have some deep linking, and it's pre-installed on most of the devices right now, like Android and Google devices. Sorry, Android and iOS devices. So the thing it do is when you have a deep link on your website. The good example here will be, let me show you just right now. So when we talk about ARCore, one of the most common example of usage, right, of ARCore, it is a model viewer, and basically this model viewer is based on ARCore. So there's like when you open this from mobile, you most likely will see a button here in the bottom, and when you press it, it actually triggers your device. It triggers your device to open a device-based app that triggered that AR. So basically, you prepare 3D model in GLB and USDZ for iPhones and GLB for Androids. This ARCore basically pushes this 3D model to your device, and device know what to do with that. So like Apple used the Z format is specifically designed for AR preview, right? Same actually works with Apple Vision Pro, if I'm not mistaken. GLB also is recognized as AR format, so that's how it works. The thing is that this might be connected, or this API, like let's say API like the Google API, might be used by any of the engine. You can combine it, right? But the technology itself is ARCore, and we should just know what is fundamental or a basis for other ones. So we should not think that there is a difference. They just use the same one. Okay, so I will put it to the AR basic, because this is not about VR, it's only about AR, or just like simple 3D model preview. Doesn't support like VR in that way that we expect. What else we have? A-frame. That is something unique developed by Mozilla, and it's still supported, and which is nice. And I will put it in AR VR basis. What is A-frame? It's basically a different way of 3D combined with AR and VR, but it differs from Three.js, but it also can be combined. But in fact, it is very close to what WebXR have, and it also have possibility to connect ARCore. Yeah, but again, ARCore is not really an engine, is just a deep link to trigger a device to show AR, right? So if we prepare a model, like 3D models like GLB and USDZ, we can just trigger it within ARCore. So it might be connected to any engine. But again, that is used in a lot of cases in e-commerce where you need to preview a product, because that is much more robust than the WebXR that we discussed before. So A-frame VR and AR is, like, in my opinion, smoother than WebXR, and especially VR. So they have a lot of tools to make development, especially of like some simple projects, very easy. And for those who more familiar with React, like, and some technology like that, that will be maybe pretty much more convenient to use, like compared to Three.js. So that definitely worth considering in case like you are going to the VR experience. For AR, it is very basic, extremely basic. So the next one will be ARGS, basically based on iframe. If you open the GitHub, they actually explicitly mentioned that. ARGS is basically an extension for A-frame, and what it does is that it adds some options to image detection, right? Some word location detection, etc. So basically tracking, and by default it is not included in A-frame. But the problem with ARGS right now, it is not really updated, and compared to other technologies that we talked today, it is not that advanced and not precise, like in terms of tracking, in terms of optimization, etc. But in some cases it might be very useful and helpful to do something fast. So I will put it here, right? Maybe like AR basis, like basically, yeah. The next one, Vert3D. This is basically something that is based on Three.js, and the cool thing about Vert3D is that it have very convenient exports from Blender or 3ds Max or Maya right into the project, and then you can run it project like just in a few clicks in browser, right? But the thing is, it's based on Three.js, so it's not much different from the technology perspective, so it's definitely here. If you are like a Blender artist and you want to achieve some web experience very fast, yeah, I mean, just use Vert3D and you have it by it supports like pure WebXR. So not only you can export just a single model, but you can create something that happens, like run animations, maybe some actions, etc. within WebXR. And probably it's time to mention like one significant difference between WebXR as a technology and like ARCore and technology that just do preview, right? And that's important. Like, ARCore is a preview, so like you basically cannot do anything. Like you have a model, you push it to the device, and that's it. Like just device will just show this model. Yeah, obviously you have like some repositioning, scaling stuff. That's it. Other thing are like the whole logic is on the device. Basically zero logic. And WebXR is about having some interaction. So you're not only detecting a surface and placing like some 3D object there, but you can, change colors of that object, right? So WebXR running through browser, not a device, which means that you can add some logic, interaction, anything else. Like, I don't know, like you can show like current market rates. in AR, like, because yeah, you can control that state. So that's the difference. All right, Unity. So Unity have WebGL export, right? And you can basically create an app there and export it as an application that can be viewed through web browser, right? And logically, we can assume that they also have 3D. Yes, but they don't have that really nice AR by default. To achieve that, you have to run some of the extensions or plugins to Unity, to your application, and one of the example is Zappar. I will say like Zappar is a really nice guys, like they develop like a lot of AR solution, but Unity have like a side support. If your first goal is to develop something for web and make it like smooth and you want to reduce costs, etc., like make it easy, you definitely not choose Unity as a starting point, like as a technology to invest time to learn or like start development. It is worth considering if you already have something developed in Unity. So then you definitely just use the same engine and do a AR web application as extension. But I will definitely not suggest to consider Unity against some native technologies, like, I mean, any in the list, basically. So that's my short comment. Vectory. So Vectory and Spline 3D actually very popular. Like Spline 3D, like last half year, I guess, like we have so many people like asking about Spline 3D, like it's this very convenient tool. So Vectory and Spline 3D basically have ARCore support. They don't have like WebXR. As again, I explained that WebXR is not really supported on Apple devices. Like there's like some troubles, and Vectory pretty much smart move. They have ARCore support. So what they can do is like when you create some 3D models within Spline 3D or Vectory, they can help you automatically create GLB and USGZ model that is used by ARCore. Basically, you can have like a button within your Spline view that will trigger actually the same that ARCore trigger. It means ARCore or like AR experience within Vector and Spline limited by just previewing one single model, and you cannot add a logic there. Makes sense, right? If that's your goal, just to have a 3D model you can preview, definitely a thing to consider. Okay, and the next one is Snapchat. So the Snapchat actually is really interesting thing, and I immediately will put it to the AR advanced. Why? Snapchat is pretty targeted on AR since the very foundation, right? They did a lot of work within like face tracking, body tracking. I mean, like you can even track like fingers, like pretty much everything, and the precise level of tracking is probably the highest right now because they just exist longer, that they have just more experience. Snapchat is basically providing us with the camera kit web that is allowing just to have lenses that we create in Snapchat in our web pages. So there might be a lot of use cases how we can use it. It is not something that you control out right from web, right? So it's something that you control. You can create lenses in Lens Studio. You can create it there. You can even add some logic, right? Finger drawing, right? Okay, and here you go. So it has some logic, and that's pretty cool. But this one you manipulate very limited, so you can just have something prepared and use it as a preview. That's good for some clothing, maybe something that requires face tracking, some hats or glasses. Maybe that's a good thing because like the precise of tracking probably the coolest here. Maybe for some cool effects like this it actually will work. But if you want to control that experience and I mean like do some variations or control it dynamically and include it in your pipelines, that is something that you consider very carefully. But the tool itself is extremely powerful. So next technology is Medipipe, and it's basically an extension for any other library like Three.js, and it also mostly focuses on AR, and especially on tracking some gestures, some emotions, some facial face mesh, etc., like AR, like Snapchat do. But compared to Snapchat, it does it in a different way, like native technology, so you can control it. Like if it's Snapchat, you have to create a lens in Lens Studio, publish it, and then you can use it on web. Then Medipipe, you can use as a library while you're developing on Three.js, for example, and control and manipulate with that face tracking, like finger tracking in real time, and do a lot of stuff, like do dynamic experience. I mean, add a lot of logic, like replace objects, I don't know, anything basically what is not limited by technology itself. It has like good tracking of gestures, fingers, hands, something like that, but compared to Snapchat, if we talk about like really precise level, it still will lose. Like, I mean, we compared face mesh tracking with Medipipe and Snapchat, and if we talk about some like big objects like hats, glasses, the difference might be minor. But if we want to track like eyes, like brows, something like that, then you start to feel different, quite. So, but it's still really nice technology if you don't need overcomplicated experience, like if you don't build something sophisticated. The next one will be Play Canvas. So we talk about these technologies like mostly for the games, and we talk about it in the last video. Pretty much that's exactly the same as all the guys that we have in this list. I'm not sure it have ARCore support directly, but you can definitely connect it. But it have WebXR support, same as like these guys. And next one is a Sketchfab. So Sketchfab is a platform for designers, and it pretty much focuses on showcasing one 3D object as cool as possible. So, and Sketchfab have a lot of pipelines that convert like uploaded model into GLB USDC. You can download GLB and USDC when you press on like free model, for example. And you can think that this actually goes in the direction of ARCore. Yeah, yes, GLB and USDC that Sketchfab provides can be used within Sketchfab API to also have that AR preview. But just use Sketchfab for AR, that's probably too much. That's probably too expensive as well. So yeah, I mean, if you are a 3D artist and you have all your models in Sketchfab, maybe you can consider this option. But for development, in my opinion, that's actually like too luxurious and don't really have that need. Okay, and here we go with the giant called H-Wall. This guy actually goes to the AR and VR basic, but it also have quite advanced AR compared to these guys, but not that good as Snapchat in terms of face tracking, like, and some other options you might need. We did a lot of tests, and when it comes like to precise tracking, like even like simple thing, like simple example with glasses, like, I mean, the way H-Wall it does it, it has some artifacts, but compared to these guys, is still quite huge. And the thing that this H-Wall is compatible with almost all popular like libraries like Babylon, like Three.js, something like Three.js 5 or something like that. That makes it outstanding. And from all the technologies mentioned today, for some complex development where you need a dynamic experience, probably H-Wall is a good choice. For the precise face tracking, and but when you need a preview like some specific products, Snapchat. For a simple AR development, Medipipe, ARCore for single preview, or maybe some other technologies. But there is one disadvantage of 8-wall, at least for some of the development or some projects, that it is, but there is like one disadvantage compared to other technologies, is the cost. So probably 8-wall is most expensive from all of the technologies that we mentioned today. But in some cases, it is actually worth it. Yes, that's my opinion. And two technology left. Okay, we have a shape diver. Basically, shape diver is same as vector spline. They support like the model viewer that we reviewed, the model viewer slash ARCore. So they also have that exports within engine, but not that cool as in Vectory, so you have to prepare models, etc. But Shape Diver is not about like 3D models. Shape Diver is about CAD models. So if you have CAD models and you use Shape Diver to preview them in 3D, and you're thinking like, okay, now I want an AR extension, you probably should think about Shape Diver again, because that will save you incredible amount of time converting like CAD to the polygonal models, and then like use one engine for that, like one engine to preview CAD, etc. So for those who use a lot of like manufacturer, like I don't know, based on CAD model production, Shape Diver is a really nice choice, even if the AR is not that easy to approach like in Vector, Spline, something like that. All right, and the last one in the list is Babylon.js, and Babylon.js, I will put this guy here. But it's basically supposed to be inside support, because it's also based on like WebXR, and you can also connect ARCore here. But in my opinion, Babylon.js compared like to Three.js and other like open source engine have a lot of work done in the VR direction. I mean, they have like mesh UI interfaces right in engine, and that's a huge deal. While like using other engines, you might like invent something from scratch or like use a lot of additional libraries. They have it optimized, which is also a very big news, because the optimization for a VR experience is like a huge thing. So I will say Babylon.js is really good consideration for VR. But in general, we should just understand that if we use it, we still rely on WebXR. So, but we always can also use ARCore. And most importantly, I hope you can find a best fit for your project or your case. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit subscribe button and leave a comment. See you in the next videos.